The waitress threw herself over a little girl during the robbery, and the Korean Mafia boss watching from the corner booth didn't recognize her courage. He recognized a threat to his most precious secret. The city looked like it was bleeding through the windows. Neon reflections from Koreatown signs bled across wet asphalt, turning puddles into pools of pink and blue. Inside Rosie's diner, the fluorescent lights buzzed their 2 a.m. song, the kind of sound that gets into your skull and stays there. The place was nearly empty. A truck driver in booth 5, working through a stack of pancakes. 2 college kids hunched over calculus textbooks and cold fries. An older woman at the counter, 3rd cup of coffee, watching her phone like it owed her money. In the corner booth, farthest from the door, a man in an expensive suit sat with his daughter. 7 years old, maybe 8. School uniform, pigtails, a coloring book spread across the table between them. The man's suit was tailored enough to cost a semester's tuition. His posture was the kind that comes from always knowing where the exits are. Tasha Robinson was wiping down the counter when the door chimed. 2 men walked in. Black hoodies. Ski masks. One tall, one shorter. The shorter one had a gun. It happened the way these things always happen, too fast and too slow at the same time. The truck driver saw the gun first. He dropped, face hitting the vinyl booth with a sound like meat hitting a cutting board. The college kids froze, textbooks still open, mouths forming silent OS. The woman at the counter gripped her phone so hard the case cracked. Tasha's hands stilled on the counter, dish rag still in her grip. Her eyes moved to the corner booth. The little girl. Ji-woo. Tasha had served her hot chocolate 20 minutes ago, extra marshmallows, the way she always ordered it. The child's eyes were wide now, coloring book forgotten. Her small hand reached for her father's sleeve. Tasha didn't think. Thinking is what gets you killed. She moved. The shorter gunman, the one with the weapon, was shouting something about the register. His partner was near the door, covering the room. Neither of them saw Tasha cross the length of the diner in 4 strides, her worn sneakers silent on the checkered floor. She reached the corner booth and dropped. Her body folded over Ji-woo's like origami, like she'd been designed for exactly this configuration. One arm wrapped around the girl's head, pressing it against her stomach. The other braced against the table, creating a cage of flesh and bone. "Don't look," Tasha whispered. "Keep your eyes closed." The girl whimpered, small and animal. In the corner booth, Lee Hyun-woo hadn't moved. Not because of the gun. Not because of fear. Because watching this stranger, this black woman in a grease-stained uniform who smelled like coffee and exhaustion, throw herself over his daughter had momentarily severed every wire in his brain that connected thought to action. His hand was still wrapped around his water glass. His breathing was still even. But something behind his eyes had detonated. His 2 men, seated in the booth behind him, were already moving. Hands inside jackets. Expressions turning from boredom to violence in the space of a heartbeat. Hyun-woo raised one finger. "Stop." They froze. "Empty the register." The shorter gunman's voice cracked. "Young. 20, maybe. The kind of young that still believes a gun solves problems instead of creating them. Now." The other waitress, an older woman named Diane, fumbled behind the counter. The register drawer jammed. She yanked it. It jammed again. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely grip the bills when the drawer finally opened. Tasha felt Ji-woo trembling beneath her. The girl's breath came in quick, shallow gasps. "Hyperventilating." "Breathe with me," Tasha murmured, her voice low, steady. "In through your nose. Out through your mouth. Like blowing out birthday candles." "Can you do that?" The girl managed a small nod against Tasha's stomach. Good. Keep your eyes closed. Count the breaths. Don't stop until I tell you. In the corner booth, Hyunwoo was watching the waitress. Not the gunman. Not his daughter. The waitress. The way her shoulders had squared before she moved. The way she'd covered Jiwoo without hesitation, without calculation, without any of the 1,000 micro-expressions people make when they're weighing risk against reward. She'd just moved. And she was still calm. Her breathing was even. Her voice, when she spoke to Jiwoo, was the kind of calm that can only come from someone who's already seen the worst thing. Someone for whom this, guns, violence, the thin membrane between breathing and not, wasn't new. Someone who'd survived something worse. The taller gunman moved toward the corner booth. You, he said, pointing at Hyunwoo. Wallet. Phone. Watch. Now. Hyunwoo didn't move. His eyes were still on Tasha. I said now. The gunman stepped closer. Tasha's head turned, just slightly. She looked at the gunman. Then at Hyunwoo. Their eyes met. In that moment, Hyunwoo saw something he hadn't seen in 5 years. Since his wife died. Since he'd rebuilt himself out of grief in concrete and the kind of violence that keeps other violence away. He saw someone who wasn't afraid of him. Someone who wasn't afraid of anything. The wallet's in my jacket, Hyunwoo said, his voice flat. His hands moved slowly, deliberately, toward his inside pocket. Tasha's eyes never left his face. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Don't. Hyunwoo's hand stopped. The shorter gunman was at the register now, shoving bills into a backpack. Diane was crying, mascara running, hands up. Got it, he called to his partner. Let's go. The taller one hesitated. His gun drifted toward Hyunwoo, then toward Tasha and Jiwoo, then back to the center of the room like he couldn't decide where the real threat was. Sirens wailed in the distance. Faint but getting louder. Now, the shorter one hissed. They ran. The door chimed again. The sound of running footsteps faded into the wet night. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Diane started sobbing. The truck driver climbed back into his booth. The college kids were calling 911, voices overlapping. Tasha stayed where she was, curved over Jiwoo like a shield. It's over, she said softly. You can look now. Jiwoo's eyes opened slowly. Tears tracked down her cheeks. Her small hands gripped Tasha's uniform so tightly the fabric bunched. You're okay, Tasha said. You're safe. The girl nodded, but didn't let go. In the corner booth, Lee Hyunwoo stood. His men stood with him, hands still inside jackets, eyes scanning the diner like they were cataloging every face, every angle, every possible threat. Hyunwoo ignored them. He moved to where Tasha was still crouched beside his daughter, and for a long moment, he just looked at her. At the way Jiwoo's hands were fisted in her uniform. At the way Tasha's hand was stroking the girl's hair, gentle, automatic, like she'd done this before. At the expression on Tasha's face, not relief, not shock, just a kind of exhausted certainty. Thank you, Hyunwoo said. His voice was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes people lean in. Tasha finally looked up at him. Their eyes met again, and this time, neither looked away. She was scared, Tasha said, like that explained everything. Maybe it did. Police sirens screamed closer. Red and blue lights began to strobe through the diner windows, painting everything in emergency colors. Hyunwoo reached down and carefully extracted Jiwoo from Tasha's arms. The girl clung to him, face buried in his shoulder, but her hands stretched back toward Tasha. "What's your name?" Hyunwoo asked. "Tasha." He nodded once. "Memorizing it." "My daughter's name is Jiwoo." He paused. "I won't forget this." It wasn't a thank you. It was something else. Something heavier. Tasha stood, joints creaking, and stepped back. The police were at the door now, voices loud, lights bright, radios crackling. The diner transformed into a crime scene in seconds: tape, questions, witness statements, someone asking who had the best view of the suspects. Someone had been filming. Of course someone had been filming. The truck driver, phone out, camera pointed at the corner booth, at Tasha straightening her uniform, at the way Jiwoo's small hand was still reaching for her even as her father carried her toward the door. By morning, the video would have 4 million views. By afternoon, Tasha's face would be everywhere. And by evening, 2 men in 2 different parts of the city would see that face and recognize it. One of them would smile. The other would pick up his phone and make a call that would change everything. But Tasha didn't know that yet. She just knew that her hands had finally started shaking. And that the man in the expensive suit was still watching her from the door, his daughter in his arms, his expression unreadable. Then he was gone. The diner buzzed with aftermath. Questions. Statements. Camera flashes. Tasha returned to the counter and picked up her dish rag. Her shift didn't end for another 3 hours. The video went viral while Tasha was still giving her statement to the police. 4 million views by sunrise. 8 million by the time she clocked out. By noon, when she finally made it back to her apartment, someone had turned it into a GIF, her body folding over Jiwoo's, the protective curve of her spine, the way her hand cradled the girl's head. The caption read, "This is what a hero looks like." Tasha deleted 3 voicemails from local news stations without listening to them. Her phone buzzed continuously. Friend requests from people she'd never met. Messages from accounts with blue checkmarks. A producer from Good Morning America asking if she'd be available for a segment. Someone offering her $5,000 for an exclusive interview. She turned her phone off and slept for 6 hours. When she woke, there were reporters outside her building. 2 vans, cameras on shoulders, a woman in a blazer holding a microphone like a weapon. Tasha went out the back exit, hood up, head down. She made it 3 blocks before someone recognized her anyway. "You're the diner lady. The hero." Tasha kept walking. By evening, the video had 15 million views. Someone had found her Facebook profile, locked down, thank God, but they'd grabbed her profile picture from 2 years ago and plastered it everywhere. Think pieces were already being written. The courage of ordinary people. Why this waitress's actions restore our faith in humanity. Her manager called. "Tasha, listen. Corporate's getting calls. Press wants to do interviews at the diner. They're offering." "No. Just hear me out." "I said no, Barry." She hung up. What none of them knew, what the video didn't show, was the man in the corner booth. The way he'd watched her. The weight in his voice when he said he wouldn't forget. That part worried her more than any camera ever could. 2 years ago, Tasha left Marcus with a fractured orbital bone, 3 cracked ribs, and a restraining order she knew wouldn't stop him. The hospital social worker had kind eyes and pamphlets about shelters. Tasha took the pamphlets, nodded at the right moments, and disappeared the day after discharge. New city. New name on the lease, her grandmother's maiden name. New phone number. New job at a diner where nobody asked questions about the woman who only worked night shifts and never lingered after her clock out. She built her life small. Deliberate. A studio apartment with 2 locks and a chain. No social media. No photos. The kind of invisible that takes work to maintain. For 2 years, it held. Marcus saw the video in a bar on the east side, nursing his 4th bourbon of the afternoon. The TV above the liquor bottles was muted, but the closed captions told the story. Waitress risks life to save child during armed robbery. The footage played on loop. The woman's face filled the screen. Marcus's hand stopped halfway to his glass. He knew that face. The angle of her jaw. The way she moved, economical, efficient, like every gesture cost something. Tasha. The bartender was talking about something, the game, the weather, some bullshit, but Marcus wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on the screen, on the way the camera had caught her profile as she stood, the diner's address visible on a napkin dispenser in the background. Rosie's Diner. Koreatown. He smiled. Not the warm kind. The kind that makes people take a step back without knowing why. Thought you could just disappear, he muttered to the screen. He finished his bourbon in one swallow, dropped 2 20s on the bar, and walked out into the neon-soaked night. He had an address now. And Tasha had made herself impossible to ignore. They came on a Thursday, during the dead zone between lunch and dinner. Tasha was refilling ketchup bottles when the door chimed. She looked up and saw the girl first, school uniform, pigtails, a red backpack shaped like a ladybug. Jiwoo's face lit up like a sunrise. The nice lady! The girl ran before her father could stop her, small arms wrapping around Tasha's waist with the kind of trust that made Tasha's throat tight. Hey, sweetheart. Tasha's hand found the girl's hair automatically, smoothing it. You okay? I drew you a picture. Jiwoo pulled a folded paper from her pocket. Crayon flowers and a woman with brown skin and a big smile. That's you. You're a superhero. Tasha took the drawing like it was made of glass. Lee Hyunwoo stood 3 feet back, hands in the pockets of a suit that cost more than Tasha's car. 2 men flanked the door outside, too alert to be casual, too still to be customers. Ms. Robinson. His voice was quiet, controlled. May I have a moment? They sat in the corner booth. Jiwoo colored at the other end, humming. I want to offer you a position, Hyunwoo said. At my restaurant. Gangnam House. Better pay, better hours. And an apartment. Secure building. Good neighborhood. Tasha's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. I also want to ensure your safety. My people can. No. The word landed between them like a brick. Hyunwoo studied her face. You saved my daughter's life. I did what anyone would do. You did what no one else did. He leaned forward slightly. Let me help you. I don't do debts, Tasha said. And I don't need saving. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. He pulled a card from his pocket and slid it across the table. Embossed letters, a phone number. If you change your mind. He collected Jiwoo and left. Tasha looked at the card for a long time before putting it in her pocket. Marcus was waiting outside her apartment when she got home from her shift. He leaned against the brick wall like he belonged there, hands in his jacket pockets, that same easy smile that used to make her feel safe before she learned what it really meant. Tasha's keys bit into her palm. Hey, baby. His voice was warm molasses. Long time. She didn't run. Running would give him what he wanted. You need to leave. That's no way to greet an old friend. He pushed off the wall, closing the distance between them in 3 casual steps. Saw you on TV. Famous now. My girl, protecting kids, being a hero. I'm not your girl. Restraining order expired 6 months ago. He smiled wider. Checked. He didn't touch her. He didn't have to. His presence was a hand around her throat, squeezing just enough to remind her he could. I've missed you, he said softly. Missed us. You look good, Tasha. Tired, but good. Her back pressed against the door. Key still clutched, thinking about which one could do damage if she aimed for the eyes. I'm not coming back. Who said anything about that? He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he'd already solved. Just wanted to see you. Make sure you're okay. All alone in this big city. He stepped back, hands up in mock surrender. I'll be seeing you around. He walked away whistling. Tasha made it inside, locked both deadbolts and the chain, and slid down the door until she was sitting on the floor. Her hands shook for 20 minutes. At 3 a.m., she pulled the card from her pocket. The phone rang twice before a voice answered. Mr. Lee, she said. It's Tasha Robinson. About that offer. The apartment had floor-to-ceiling windows, hardwood floors, and a security system that required 2 codes and a fingerprint. Tasha hated it immediately. Not the space itself, that was beautiful in the way expensive things always are. Clean lines, neutral colors, a kitchen with appliances she didn't know how to use. But it felt like a cage made of marble and good intentions. She kept her duffel bag packed for the first week. Just in case. Gangnam House was worse. White tablecloths. Wine lists in leather binders. Customers who spent more on appetizers than Tasha used to make in a week. The other servers moved like dancers, choreographed and precise. Tasha felt like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. But she learned fast. Watched how they folded napkins, how they described dishes, the angle at which to pour wine. She refused to be the charity case. 3 days in, Jiwoo appeared after school. Appa said I could do homework here. The girl climbed onto a bar stool, backpack nearly as big as she was. Tasha glanced at Hyunwoo, who sat in his usual corner table with papers spread before him. He didn't look up, but his mouth quirked slightly. Math or reading? Tasha asked. Both. Jiwoo made a face. So it became routine. Jiwoo at the bar, worksheet and pencil scattered, asking Tasha questions between orders. Sometimes she drew pictures, always including Tasha, always with flowers. Sometimes she just talked, the kind of rambling 7-year-olds do, about her teacher and her friend Mina and the cat she wanted but wasn't allowed to have. Tasha found herself looking forward to 3:30. Found herself smiling when small hands tugged her sleeve. Found herself forgetting, for whole minutes at a time, about Marcus and restraining orders and the bag still packed in her closet. The restaurant closed at 11, but Tasha stayed to finish inventory. She liked the quiet after the last customer left, the way the space exhaled. She was counting wine bottles when Hyunwoo appeared with 2 cups of tea. You don't have to stay, she said. Neither do you. He set 1 cup beside her clipboard. Yet here we are. They sat at the bar. The tea was some expensive blend that tasted like flowers and smoke. My wife died 5 years ago, he said suddenly. Cancer. Fast. Tasha's hands stilled on her cup. Jiwoo was too. Didn't understand why her mother stopped coming home. His voice was factual, distant. I built everything after that. The restaurants, the network, the control. thought if I made the world smaller, safer, I could protect what I had left. Did it work? No. He smiled without humor. You can't control chaos. You can only survive it. Tasha took a breath. My ex put me in the hospital 2 years ago. Fractured my face. Told me it was my fault for making him angry. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. I believed him for a long time. That I deserved it. That love was supposed to hurt. She traced the rim of her cup. I got out. Changed my name. Disappeared. Built a life so small no one could find me. Until the video. Until the video. They sat in silence. Not the uncomfortable kind. The kind shared by people who've both seen the bottom and climbed back up using broken glass as handholds. Thank you, Hyunwoo said finally. For trusting me with this. You trusted me first. His eyes met hers, and something passed between them. Not attraction, not yet. Something deeper. Recognition. Two people who understood that survival wasn't the same as living. But maybe, together, they could learn the difference. The attack came on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after Tasha started at Gangnam House. She was walking to her car in the back lot when the van pulled up. No headlights. 3 men, moving fast. She didn't even have time to scream. Hands grabbed her arms. Something cold pressed against her ribs, a gun barrel. A voice in her ear, accented, Korean, get in the van. No noise. Then gunfire. Not from her attackers. From the shadows. Hyunwoo's men materialized like they'd been waiting. 2 from the restaurant's back door, 1 from behind a dumpster. The violence was surgical and absolute. Suppressed pistols, body shots, men dropping without ceremony. The one holding Tasha released her and ran. Didn't make it 10 feet before a bullet found his knee. It was over in 30 seconds. Tasha stood frozen, hands shaking, staring at the bodies. One was still breathing, blood pooling beneath him. Hyunwoo appeared, suit jacket open, expression carved from ice. Get her inside. She rounded on him in his office, adrenaline turning to rage. I didn't ask for this war. I know. Then why? Because you were already in it. His voice was sharp. The moment that video went viral, you became visible. And when you're visible in my world, you become a target. Your world? I served your daughter coffee. And saved her life in front of cameras. He pulled out his phone, showed her a surveillance photo. Marcus, shaking hands with a man Tasha didn't recognize. Your ex sold information about you. Where you work, where you live, your connection to me. He sold it to my enemies for $20,000. The air left Tasha's lungs. They would have come regardless, Hyunwoo said quietly. At least this way, you're protected. Tasha looked at the photo. At Marcus's smile. At the price tag he'd put on her life. Marcus came through the kitchen during closing, when only Tasha and one prep cook remained. The cook, new guy, worked 3 weeks, unlocked the back door and disappeared into the night. Paid off. Tasha was wiping down stations when she felt the gun against her spine. Miss me? Marcus's breath was hot against her neck. Told you I'd be seeing you around. Her body remembered before her mind did. The freeze response, the way her muscles locked, the small voice that said don't fight, it'll be worse if you fight. He walked her toward the dining room, gun now pressed to her temple, arm around her throat. Not tight enough to choke. Just tight enough to remind her who was in control. The front door burst open. Hyunwoo entered with 4 men, weapons drawn. They fanned out, professional, covering angles. "Let her go." Hyunwoo's voice was arctic. Marcus laughed. "The boyfriend. She trade up? How's she in bed, boss?" "Still got that thing she does." Tasha stopped hearing him. She was back in the diner. Seeing Jiwoo's terrified face. Remembering the moment she moved without thinking, without permission, without fear. She drove her elbow backward into Marcus's ribs, hard, the way her self-defense instructor taught her years ago. His grip loosened. She grabbed the stock pot from the still hot burner and threw the contents into his face. Marcus screamed. The gun clattered to the floor. Tasha was on him before he hit the ground. Fists, elbows, knee to his face, all the rage of 2 years compressed into 10 seconds of absolute violence. Strong hands pulled her off. Enough. Hyunwoo's voice, firm but not harsh. He's done. Marcus lay unconscious, face blistered, blood pooling. Tasha's knuckles were split and bleeding. She was shaking. But this time, not from fear. The sign above the door read Tasha's table in letters that glowed warm against the morning gray. 6 months of permits and construction and late nights arguing over menu details with Hyunwoo, who had opinions about everything from the grade of rice to the angle of the booth seating. 6 months of learning that partnership didn't mean surrender. Opening day. 7 a.m. Jiwoo sat at the counter, legs swinging, already working through a plate of buttermilk pancakes with gochujang maple syrup. Her father sat beside her, suit jacket draped over the stool back, reading the business section. No visible bodyguards. But Tasha knew they were there, the couple in booth 2, the man by the window nursing coffee. Close enough to matter. Far enough to let them breathe. "Miss Tasha, these are the best pancakes in the whole world," Jiwoo announced, syrup on her chin. "You say that every time I cook for you." "Because it's true every time." Tasha smiled, wiping down the counter. The restaurant was filling, mostly friends, some curious locals, a food blogger Hyunwoo knew. The kitchen hummed. The coffee smelled like promise. Hyunwoo set down his paper. "Coffee? Already bossy, and we've been open 20 minutes. But Tasha poured him a cup anyway. Their fingers brushed as she slid it across the counter. He caught her hand, just for a moment. His thumb traced her knuckles, still scarred from that night, healed but marked. "Proud of you," he said quietly. "Not I'm proud of you. Just proud." Like her accomplishment stood on its own. Tasha squeezed his hand once, then let go. This time, when someone offered her something, partnership, proximity, the terrifying possibility of love, she took it. Not because she was afraid to be alone. But because she'd learned the difference between needing someone and choosing them. The difference changed everything.